Well, hey, welcome to this week's California Haunts Radio. Can you believe it? We're already in December. We went down on lockdown 8 or 9 months ago, and the time has flown. We're starting to come into Christmas. My neighborhood for the first time is decorated. They never decorate in this neighborhood. I mean, almost every house is done, including mine. And I do a light show thing in front of mine. And you drive by my house if you're an epileptic, good luck with that. I don't mean to be insulting the epileptics, but it is what it is. Anyway, welcome tonight. My name is Charlotte. I am your host, and we've got a good show tonight. I hope you guys brought your popcorn and your snacks, or maybe you're eating dinner in front of the TV, in front of the TV or in front of the computer, because we got a couple great guests for you. It's going to be kind of an inspirational kind of night. We've got Kim Chestney coming on, and Henry Ortiz, who's local out of Sacramento and does work with prisoners and younger kids to help keep them out of jail. So we're going to be talking with him. But more importantly, our first guest, Kim Chestney. Kim has written a book called Radical Intuition, and I'll show you guys right here. See, it's right here. Unfortunately, the book didn't arrive until 5:15 today, so I haven't had a chance to read it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swing right into Kim and let her tell you about herself, and then we can get into what's in the book. So here we go.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I'll fill you in on the book, so I'll tell you all about it.
Cool. Yeah, my stupid mail mess. He was supposed to be here yesterday, and then they said there was a delay, and then I got it today. So,
hey, well,
I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to read it. Tell me about yourself first.
Oh, well, I don't even know where to begin. I wrote a book. I'm super excited about that. It's my second book. My first book, The Psychic Workshop, I came out with about 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. I don't know. It's dating me now. It was many years ago. And it's really, this new book is an interesting complement to it, because we're talking about intuition in a bigger context, with sort of a broader brush, and how it really relates to the world today, and how we all have it, and how it's really this voice of the future that's really going to take us into the new frontiers.
Interesting. And are you psychic?
Well, yes, I'm psychic. I think we're all psychic. That's my premise with this, is that, in my journey, and I've been studying this since probably the day I was born. I think I was just born to do this, because I was born on Halloween at 12/12 Halloween night. So I'm like, wow. 12 planets in Scorpio. So this is my comfort zone here. So my whole life, I've been working with this kind of thing in so many different ways, from the paranormal to technology. My career is actually in technology. I've worked for 20 years in technology and innovation in the arts and creativity. I'm also an artist. So it's really the full spectrum of intuition. So I really strongly believe that we're all psychic. We all have psychic ability. It just hasn't been unlocked yet. And that's part of the trend for the future, is more and more of us are going to be opening up to that part of that dimension of our thinking and being.
That's what I keep hearing, because I'm obviously in the paranormal field as well. And I keep hearing that that's what's going to happen, is the people that have the ability, or even have a little bit of ability, are going to start, getting stronger with it.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. When I first started on this journey, I really got on this path because, crazy things were happening when I was young. I had a lot of intuitive experiences, psychic experiences that I just needed to make sense of. So I think a lot of your listeners can probably relate to that, and you too. You have these experiences, the unexplained things happen, and you need to figure out, how is that possible? How could this? What is it all about, right? So I think it's sort of a natural curiosity and a quest that a lot of us have. And that's sort of what started me off years ago. When I got into psychic development, I didn't even mean to get into psychic development. I just wanted to understand psychic stuff. And I ended up with this wonderful organization that actually taught me how to develop my psychic intuition. And my first book was actually predicted in an intuitive development class, which was really fun. And so really, I learned to do that, and I didn't realize it was something that I could even do when I was younger. I knew it was something that was out there, but I didn't know that I could control it, I think so learning to control it is so important. And once you realize that you can control it and you can open to it, it really opens up a whole new world of possibilities and wonder.
When you talk about controlling it, people that are, I'm not going to say laymen, but people that are not into this or just starting out, what do you mean by control?
Is learning to become conscious of it and actually have it be something that is part of your everyday life in a lot of ways. So when you're, we've all probably experienced intuition in different ways. Like you've had those moments where you just sort of had a knowing or a feeling, or maybe something like you knew something that you shouldn't be able to know, there's little things like that, or even a mystical experience. We all have these little blips where intuition comes in to us from time to time and reminds us that there's more to life than these five senses, and that, the things they condition us to believe are the limits of reality. But we know through quantum physics that they're not the limits, and it's really just been a way we've been trained to think and limit our minds. So, when we recognize these little things happening as sort of the calling cards of our intuition, like these are the little moments where it sneaks through to remind us that there's something more. But when you start to open to intuition and start to become aware of it and wake up to it, you can actually have more of that happen, right? And you can start to become aware of it and start to invite it into your life so that it really becomes what I call a culture of insightfulness. When we talk about mindfulness, I'm talking about insightfulness. When you get into that stillness, that's where your intuition speaks. And what is it saying? What's coming to you out of that quiet?
When you talk about radical intuition, what is that?
Yeah, so I always get this question, like, what's so radical about intuition? I'm just like, well, I said, when you really think about intuition is one of the most radical things out there that we can turn to. The reality of it is that, it's this part, it's a natural inborn thing that every human being has. But the biggest crime, I always say, against humanity that's ever happened is that we've been taught to think that it's not real or that it doesn't exist. We've really been taught to deny a whole dimension of our being. And it's natural, it's part of us. Great people throughout history have been talking about intuition and crediting intuition for these great things for years. Geniuses and every, like, from science to the arts to the mysticism, religion, you name it. But the reality is, the everyday person has sort of been conditioned to think it's not something that is for me. It's just for these special people. But that's not true. And that's a real shame that this has happened, because it's really caused us to deny something to ourselves that we all have. It's our right to tap into this intuition and to understand, what we're capable of knowing with it. So what's radical about this is making this shift to honoring that inner truth and honoring that being within us, despite what all of the conditioning of the world has told us for our entire lives since we were little kids, and they told us not to believe in our imaginary friends, or this wasn't possible, or that we couldn't do something, when in our heart and our intuition we knew that it could. So it's letting go of that conditioning and making that shift to trust ourselves and own our power and believe in ourselves and live our truth. And so when we start to actually live that way 24/7 and trust our intuition and our inner guidance and our own inner voice over all of the crap that the world's telling us, that can create a radical change in the way that we live, ourselves and the culture around the world.
Interesting. So then you can take whatever this is and apply it, correct? Apply it to your daily life stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, I worked, things started getting really interesting for me when I was working. I worked with a lot of technology startup companies and some of the biggest tech companies on the planet. And, I'd be in strategic planning meetings. And then one day I started hearing people start talking about intuition in these meetings. Like this was this new holy grail, because we're coming out of the information age, moving into this new age where, data and information, we're oversaturated with all of that. The real genius, the real secret sauce, the real holy grail, the future is in our intuition. Right. So, and really super smart people like Steve Jobs and Einstein and all those people that you hear talking about intuition, who are scientists and technologists, they get it. Right. The mystical people, the paranormal people, we get it because we've experienced it. Right. But also other super smart people are starting to get it. Now, the physicists are starting to get it. So we have these people on the fringes that are really starting to, oh, my God, like this is actually real. All of this stuff makes sense now that we understand things like, parallel universes and quantum physics and relativity and all of that stuff. So those impossible things of the past are suddenly now so much more possible. So using your intuition every day whether you're using it to build something new, right? Using your creative inspiration, because that's it really tied into your intuition, or whether you're using it to, have a spiritual connection in your life and connect to something more and the metaphysical world, or whether you're using it just really to listen to your body and what to eat and what to feel, how to, achieve well-being. There's so many different ways that our intuition guides us every day. And, particularly, it keeps us safe, and it wants the best for us, no matter what we're doing. It's our red flag, it's our alert system, but it's also this guide that helps us to make the right choices every day in our life.
When I think of intuition, I think of like your mom or, your mother always seeming to know, when you've done something that you're not supposed to do, or if you're in trouble, or maybe a car accident, and they get that feeling. Is that what we're kind of talking about?
Yes, totally. And it's so funny because, we all have those people in our lives that just intuitively know us better than we know ourselves, right?
Right.
And women often get credited with that because, we are, and intuition is not gender-based. So, it's men have it, women have it, everybody has it. But the female sort of energy is more receptive and open and sensitive, right? So that's how the women's intuition thing kind of got started, I think. But everybody has it. And, especially when you see like people like, the biggest advocates of intuition in history have actually been men, surprisingly. So, but that sort of archetype of that, maternal figure who has that sort of sensitivity is very much, ingrained in our understanding of intuition.
Interesting. I was glancing through some of the paper that, some of the papers that came with the book, and I noticed that you mentioned meditation as part of building this up. How does somebody build up? Let's just say, somebody's just starting to realize their abilities. Well, what are the steps that they need to take to get to build all this up?
Yeah, well, I think you just touched on it, and I think that not necessarily meditation, but I'm a huge fan of meditation because it allows us to calm down and get into that silence and that stillness where our intuition can speak. So really the number one thing we need to do, anybody who wants to listen to their intuition more and really wants to start to experience it every day in their life, what we need to do is slow down. Right? We need to create some more white space. We need to stop running around like chickens with our heads cut off. Because when we're busy and we have a million things running through our mind that our intuition can't get through. That's the thing, because it's this subtle thing that just pops in an instant. And sometimes we miss it. And if our minds are going, then we don't get the message. It can get lost. So the first thing I tell people to do is just spend more time alone. Right. So whatever you love to do alone, whether you like to go for walks or take baths or listen to music or make art or just sit with a cup of tea or coffee, whatever you like to do when you open up space in that stillness so that those little pops of insight can come in. Because one of the defining characteristics of intuition is it's something that just simply comes to you. You don't have to try. In fact, you can't. It's impossible. You can't just like try for intuition. Intuition's a natural process that you just open up and you receive it. It's the opposite of the intellect where we have to like figure everything out. And if you're figuring something out, then you're not using your intuition, right? Because that's your mind. So this whole, mindfulness movement is so important because it teaches us to quiet that mind and shut it up so that our intuition has a voice and it can start to speak. And so once you get into that stillness, you'll get those little ideas, those little nuggets of inspiration or those little solutions to your problems that start to pop in more and more.
When you talk about applying it to, like you say, like you just said, but let's say you want to apply it to your daily life, how would you do that? Once you get to that point where you're able to do that, how would you apply it, say, when you go to work and whatnot?
Yeah. So in the book, I list like a whole thing of like life with intuition and life without intuition. So you can just see like how, and I'll go through it a little bit here, but it just shows you this difference. I mean, having intuition makes all the difference and really just about everything you do. And that's the thing about intuition is it applies to anything you're doing, whether, you're parenting, like we just touched on, and you're going to like know your kids are giving you a line of, whatever, it helps to know when you have that strong intuition, or if something's wrong, you have a sense of connectedness with your children. So parenting, it's huge. work, it's huge. Work is creativity and innovation and creating new products and creating things that people want and creating things that are intuitive for other people to experience, and having empathy is so important in the work that we do every day. In our relationships, I mean, can we talk about that? And, really connecting with other people and knowing what they need, knowing how to give ourselves, knowing, truth, establishing truth. That's a big thing in the media today, talking about the presidential elections. The book came out on election day this year, and though that may possibly been the worst possible day to launch a book in the history of ever, it was a punctuation mark, because to me that was important. It's important, and it's relative to what's happening right now. So, having this ability to discern truth and to discern different pathways, right? When you're faced with confusion, and even in situations where your life is in danger. There's stories in the book about, people who have had their lives saved by intuition because they listened to that voice that told them to do this or not do that, or trust this person and not trust that person, when our minds were telling us the wrong thing just because it was rational. Sometimes intuition can be irrational, but once we learn to trust it, we'll realize there's a method to the madness.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've had a few experiences like that in my life. I think a lot of the listeners have had experiences like that in their lives. Mm-hmm. What made you write the book?
Well, I've been writing this book. It's been about 10 years it's taken me to write this book. Since my last book came out, that the book was my first book really was really just fell into my lap. It was the universe just gave that to me because I didn't even intend to write it. And it ended up really becoming a staple in psychic development for many, many years, for almost 10, 15 years now. But I realized when I was doing that work and I was out giving readings for people, and I realized after I would talk with someone would ask me to, share psychic information with them, I always kind of felt like I was robbing them of the opportunity to learn that for themselves. So I kind of had this crisis moment where it's like, I don't want to do it this way. Like, it didn't feel intuitively right to me. And, there's a place for it. Don't get me wrong, because I have many friends who are psychics, and I have gone to psychics and I totally support them. But I think there's different times and different places where that's right. And for me, I felt this calling to teach other people how to do it. And that was my path. So this book really became not just a psychic development book, but a book to show that to raise awareness and to normalize intuition, because it's something that normal people have. You don't have to be a weirdo, or you don't have to be a genius, or you don't have to be an outlier to have this. It's something that is our right, and that we all really need to get on board with this, because there's so much potential there if we really put our minds to our intuition instead of ignoring it.
Interesting. I'm fascinated by all this stuff. Absolutely fascinated. So if somebody, what you're talking about is that inner voice that people have. Mm-hmm. That inner voice that says, okay, do this and not this, or do that and not that. Kind of like, the whole, there's an angel on this shoulder, there's a devil on this shoulder kind of thing going on. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's what kind of, what we're talking about here. So are you working with people one-on-one to raise awareness of this, or how's that working?
Yeah. So, I started working, I think I've been working one-on-one with people since the first book came out. I do take private clients and I help people to really get in touch with their own intuition. But I've also been working with it really in an applied way in our communities, working with the arts, working with innovation and technology, which all of these things I look at as applied intuition in our economy, and intuition for social justice. There's so many applications of intuition that is relevant to the change that this world needs right now. So I have done a lot of work in that regard with the public. So really, I've always looked at this as both a personal sort of empowerment, tool. Like, your intuition it's for us. It's our connection to the universe, God, the source, whatever you want to call it. Intuition is our connection to that. So it really is the most important part of our spiritual development and our spiritual growth. But it's also has this really sort of sort of applied aspect, it's also the most important part of the way that we change as a humanity and the way that we use our minds and expand our consciousness, and the way we, are we going to move towards unity? Are we going to, rise above our levels of unconsciousness and collectively wake up to, the beyond, and to embrace the future in these new ways? So all of these things and all these futuristic concepts are also really tied into intuition, and that's exciting too.
That was one of my next questions. What do you see as needing the most work out there in the world? Because you talk about, social stuff going on. Where do you see the biggest need?
Well, right now in politics, I think I get emails regularly from people, husbands and wives who have totally different opinions of, the political situation, and they both swear they're following their intuition. And how can our intuitions be, so different if we're all connected to the same source? And there's all of, these really important, really, really poignant discussions around, truth and what it is, and, and how do we fight the good fight, and what does that mean? And ultimately, the answer is within us, and there's no prescribed route. There's no prescribed right and wrong. We can only look for what's right and wrong for each of us. So there's a really subjective nature to intuition that can be confusing until you really understand that we're all in different places on a path, and we're all getting to this place of higher consciousness in our own unique way. And some may be very different than others, but just because someone's path is different than yours doesn't mean it's wrong. It might be wrong for you. If you were doing what you were doing, it would be wrong for you because that's not your path. But it's what they need,
Do you think, with all the division that's going on, do you think there's ever going to be a unification again?
I definitely do. I 100% feel that the pain that we're going through now for 2020, thank God it's almost over, 2020 and all of its glory and all of its horrors, the things that it's brought to us, I really feel that these are growing pains, and it's a wake-up call. And we have this opportunity now to, I was talking with someone about it earlier, like, for better or worse, we're awake now. I mean, that's the thing. We're awake. Like, it got our attention. Life got our attention. We were busy on our social media and out making money, living our jobs, you know what I mean? Like, caught up in the illusions of life. And now, we've had to step back. We've had to say, okay, things just got real. And now we got to pay attention here. Because life is more than this. And we were really, insulated, I think, from a lot of the realities of life. So I think that, this unity, it might be, there's some struggles and growing pains, but it's the way of the future, and it's just a matter of time before more and more people get closer and closer to that point of understanding, that we're all one and we're all connected in the heart. So at the end, that's where we're going to end. Regardless of how long it takes us to get there, that's where we have to go if we're going to live. It's life.
Do you think, in a way, these stay in place orders, is it helping people a little bit become in touch with themselves because they're home, their homework?
Yeah, I think it's a time out. It really is that kind of okay, take a time out and think about what you've done. Think about what you're doing in your life, and it's been hard. Being alone is hard in general, whether it's in quarantine or whether it's just spending time alone in your life sometimes, because, it's easier to be with other people and kind of not think about things sometimes. So I think this quarantine has given us all an opportunity to work on ourselves and to face some truths about ourselves. And, whether or not we've taken that opportunity, and that's up to us. But I do feel, for me, it's been a huge opportunity. And I hope that I've taken advantage of as much as I could. But, really spending that time, having that time, not driving, not spending 3 hours a day commuting. That's opened up a huge space in my life. That's 3 hours a day where I can be doing things that my intuition can talk to me instead of driving in traffic and getting stressed out.
Well, I know I got more into meditation during all this. It's awakened me that way. And I think I see a lot more in my house because I am awake. I've gotten that awakening. And I know a lot of people have. I get calls all the time of people saying, well, there's something going on in my house. It's like, because you're home, you're home to notice it more.
Right. Right. And I think that, when you're talking about things going on in your house, you're talking about like spirit stuff, or you're talking about, right. So
a lot of activity.
Yeah, and that comes with awakening, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. For me, I have had some of my most powerful physical experiences when I was going through times of awakening, and it can catch people off guard because they don't always expect it. But one of the signs of you raising your vibration and expanding your consciousness is being able to perceive things outside of our dimensions and our time and space. That's just a fact. So this kind of stuff happens, and you're able to really connect with these things, and that's part of the intuitive growth process.
And I was just thinking when you were talking about that, and anybody that has anything going on in their house and probably didn't realizes it now, because during the day, whatever's in there has the run of the house. But now you're home all day, and it has to share that space with you, so you're noticing stuff more and more.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, the ghosts are probably like, when is this pandemic going to end? I'm sick of these kids being in the house all day.
I like having it to myself. When you talk about opening up, now, I know from doing what I do that it's okay to open up, but you got to be able, and that's where psychic development comes in, of course. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to shut the door as well, because once you open up, it's not all going to be Casper coming in.
Amen to that. And, I'm so glad that you said that, because that's like, my real mantra is, you just can't open up to any vibration. And that's what's so wonderful about intuitive development, because when you really get into this place of a true awakening and meditating and getting into this place of evolution. So we're not just talking about, I want to have a metaphysical experience. I actually want to be a better person. I want to grow, and I want to raise my vibration. So that's the key. The key with this awakening is raising your vibration, and I know this because I went about it the wrong way. I speak from experience, learn from my mistakes. You will definitely attract. Okay, so when I had my awakening and all this stuff, so I was like, this crazy stuff starts happening, and I was like seeking and asking everybody what is going on with me, and I finally met this teacher that really helped me understand it. And he looked at me and he said, Kim, nothing can come to you that's not already in you. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, that's not me. Like, that's not me. Like, but then I was like, step back for a second. Like, oh, like maybe I have fear in me. Maybe I am afraid of something, or maybe I am, I'm holding back with things. So it's so important, that we get into this place when we awaken, that we're in a high vibration place, and that we come from a place of love and peace and all of this, these high energy light places. And then that's the kind of energy that you're going to naturally attract, because you're operating on that vibrational level. But if you wake up and you freak out and you're like, oh my God, like what's happening to me? I'm like so scared, like having a mental breakdown. Then you start attracting fear, right? And so then that's when other fearful things happen. But the reality is that we do have control over it. It's something that we do have control over. It just takes an awareness of who we are. And that's why our intuition is so important in the process, because it shows us.
See, I will attract negative stuff occasionally because I'm not doing it, for ghost hunting and stuff. But mainly it's my light, because I try to stay as positive as possible. So they're attracted to, it's like a beacon.
Oh yeah, there's that.
And I've had people tell me when I go to cemeteries, I've got a conga line behind me, when I'm out there, because they're following me around and stuff. But you're right. It's about your attitude, as far as attracting stuff. That's why it's a thing with ghost hunters. You're not allowed to go out when you're not feeling well. You're not allowed to go out, if you're pregnant or whatever, because that part of your body is, that part of you is down. You're going to be attracted to negatives. Yeah.
No, and I love what you said about the beacon. And I think that's exactly why when you awaken, that stuff happens. Because when you have that awakening, that's a shift. That's a vibrational shift. When you have that moment where you were like, oh my God, like I see the world in a new way. Like there's meaning here. Like I've had this like expansion of my reality, and you've grown in light. You've gotten brighter. And that is a beacon. And it's like C.S. Lewis says in the Screw Tape Letters, when all else fails, reveal yourself. And that's what happens. You get this stuff happening, you get these sort of lower energy whatever you want to call it, coming in to pull you back down or to, get a little bit of that energy, whatever the reason is. So that's part of the reason why it even happens to begin with. But when you stay in that light place, like you do, and to, then it makes it more difficult for that energy to affect you, right? Even though it's there, right, for it to interact with you or do that stuff, because of frequency level, you're not on the same frequency. It's just physics.
Right.
So it makes it harder, to have that interaction.
And I remember when my awakening started, I was like you, I had no help.
Mm-hmm.
I was in another paranormal group, and they would laugh and they'd say, ha ha, this is happening to you. And I remember I'd be driving home and flashlights would come on by themselves in my back seat, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up, and it's funny because I was still going to college, and I remember I would come home, Montel was on, and Sylvia Brown was on Montel.
Sylvia, I remember.
Thank God, because that is who got me through, because she made it seem like, like it was nothing. You know what I mean? It's just her approach with it was like, oh no, spirit people, blah, blah, blah. And that's what got me through with Sylvia Brown.
And mine was John Edward. Yeah, remember him? Yeah, John, because I was like, oh my God, a normal person is doing this. He's like, look at him. He's got this under control. And he's like, I was like, I'm not crazy, right? So I think back in that time when, a lot of those TV mediums and psychics were really popular, they really did allow a lot of people to really come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak, and really own it. Be like, okay, like this has happened to me, and they're out there making it work. So it was a really good example for other people. And one of the person who wrote the foreword for this book, Kim Moses, was actually the executive producer of Ghost Whisperer, which I also think was a really wonderful show for normalizing intuition. And I had a really great talk with Kim, and on my website, you can go to it and download. I have a free 10-day Wake Up Your Intuition event, and I interviewed different cool people who have used intuition in interesting ways. And Kim was one of the people that I talked with. And I asked her, I said, because Kim and I are both from Pittsburgh, so we've known each other for a while. And I was like, I love the Ghost Whisperer. It's so funny. Even before I knew her, I was just like, I watched it all the time. And I was like, so great having Melinda be this normal character who people could relate to, just a girl down the street. And, I guess when Kim was working with James Van Praagh on it, they were talking about how to make this character Melinda. Like, there was some conversation they wanted to make her more like offbeat or more fringe. And Kim was really insistent that she wanted her to be a normal person. She wanted her to be just like everybody else. And I think that was a stroke of genius, because that was really one of the first shows that was out there to normalize intuition and psychic ability in a way that said, okay, so it's not something we need to be so afraid of. It's not something that's like so out there and ridiculous.
And I noticed, I was going through your book too. I actually went through it before. I had a few minutes. You got quizzes. You've got quizzes in there for people.
Yeah. So that's great. So there's a whole intuition affinity assessment out that you can take in the book, and it's really fun. And it's sort of designed to tell you like what type of intuitive are you, because there's these different pathways that our intuition can use to speak with us. Like some people are really strong physical intuitives. They feel a lot of intuition in their body. Other people just get knowings or just have a good sense of, those inner knowingnesses that come along every day and decision-making and their inner guidance. And then there's people who are very creative intuitives that are full of inspiration and new ideas, like the Steve Jobs and the artists of the world who are out there, creating these new amazing things. And then you have like the spiritual intuition, where people are really connected metaphysically with these experiences of the beyond and connecting with God and the universe in really profound and beautiful ways. So all of our intuitive experiences are kind of a blend of body, mind, heart, and spirit, those four basic elements of who we are. And you can take the quiz and find out what type of intuitive you naturally are and what ways that you can develop each type of the intuition.
Do you think even people that have trouble calming down and because I have friends who I work with that are real jumpy, they just can't seem to get their minds to calm down. What do you do with people like that to get them to calm down?
Oh yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, and I love the book Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Like, I don't know if you've read that, but if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it as sort of a primer for intuition, because it teaches you how to calm your mind and has all these practices, whether it's through meditation or just simply moving into the stillness when you're standing in line at the checkout counter, really practical ways to just, turn off that mind and really get into that no mind space so that your intuition can start to come through.
I've always practiced the whole rainbow thing, where you start off with the red color and then you work yourself slowly down to white. You get that calmness.
Yeah.
That's how I've done it over the years.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Really just, connecting with those different frequencies, anything to, even if you're working with your chakras, there's so many different visualization exercises that can be really helpful in that process.
Getting back to that, I used to give people an idea, I was one of these people that was on the run all the time. I was one of these people that would go to bed at night and my mind was still going. Constantly going. So my mind was in was in fast forward. So to get to the point where I can actually sit down and meditate now, it's fantastic.
Big accomplishment.
For me to slow down to accomplish that part, yeah. It's wonderful.
I think you're not alone. I think that's the way that most of us are anymore because, we've been taught, especially with technology, we've been taught to just always be doing something. The idea of not doing anything is just what, that's super boring, or I don't want to do that. I tried doing that with my kids and they're like, oh, no. So for you to get to that place, you have to put a conscious intention on it anymore. And it really is a counterpoint that's important for us right now, because all of this other stuff is just really, it's contributing to this lifestyle of toxic overthinking. And that is creating so much static that our intuition just can't get through. So we got to tone it down.
Interesting. So it took you all this time to write this book, which is great. I mean, you took your time with it. What was the hardest thing about writing it?
Well, I think the reason it took so long was because I had to learn it myself before I could write it. So this book really is a culmination of my own journey and my own process of revelation and intuitive understanding of the world. And this book is not, I went on tangents where I'm like, oh, I need to do research and I need to do this. And, I did do all of that. But then I realized that, the real content that needed to come through that book was the stuff that came through me and the stuff that, was inspired by my own intuition. And so it was a process for me of really coming to do this work in my own life and seeing the results in my own life and raising my own vibration and expanding.
Ooh, what happened? I lost her.
Backstage.
Sorry about that. Wrong button. Go ahead. I apologize.
That's all right. Going into another dimension. But yeah, wait. Now I forget what we were talking about.
We lost it. See that?
That's right. So yeah. So that.
I'm so sorry. I didn't think I was going to hit anything to blow you out. I was trying to answer somebody's text here. Hello, the guys that said hello. I'm just going to do it verbally. It's all good. It's all good. I lost you. Anyway, I found everything you have said tonight. I've experienced a lot of it, and I'm fascinated by what you have to say. Now, if somebody wants to take your book and apply it to their life, how would you suggest they do it? Are there certain steps they need to take, or how does that work?
So the book that's what I say I love about the book is it's not just a reading book, it's a doing book. So don't take it from me. All the stuff I'm sitting here talking about, you don't need to listen to me. You can just read the book and you can experience it for yourself, because that's really what I want. I wrote this book so that other people could go through this journey and have these experiences and build this trust and intuition themselves. So by going through this process of opening up to our intuition, learning how your own intuition speaks to you uniquely, right? Figuring out your intuitive language. The quiz will help you. Then the book has exercises and workshops that you can start doing every day. Little things you can do to just give intuition your attention every day, because that's what's so important. It's making it top of mind, right? Instead of just forgetting about intuition, it's something that'll come once in a while. No, it can be here any moment, anytime you need it. Start just creating a intention to listen to that first drop in or that little moment of insight over your mind instead of trying to figure everything out. Just say, what is my intuition telling me? What is my gut feeling, right? Checking in with yourself and your feelings and your thoughts in terms of your intuition before you make those decisions.
When I think of what you saying, oh, listen to intuition. I'm a Star Wars nut, okay? So that's what I think of. I think of using the Force.
That's right. It's the Force, baby.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was a big joke of mine. I've been saying my whole life about this. Well, because when my grandmother passed many years ago, I had an overwhelming physical intuition experience. Like I knew, right? I knew.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I was going to tell a friend of mine, I said, this was back before I even understood it. Like, again, I was like you, I had no idea what was happening to me. I'm like, all I know is that I knew something and it would freak me out. And I was trying to tell somebody about it. And they're like, yeah, it was a disturbance in the Force. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like a disturbance in the Force. So yeah. So, I mean, I think maybe they were onto something with that whole Star Wars thing. And that's a good way for us to metaphorically look at things.
What do you say to people that are considering doing this? I mean, and are unsure about wanting to do it?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid. And I think specifically, we're here tonight talking about paranormal things, and I think that can scare a lot of people. And I run an intuition school. I have it's called IntuitionLab, and I do like online programs and courses to help people to get in touch with their intuition and start living it and do all the stuff we're talking about. And I can't tell you how many students I've had that they or their partners have been totally freaked out that this was like the devil, right? Or that it's something bad or something scary, or I'm going to get possessed. And really nothing is further than the truth with intuition. And I can't explain that to people enough because the intuition is truly actually the opposite of all that scary stuff. Intuition, is it's the lack of fear. It's the lack of ignorance. It's the lack of darkness. Intuition is truth. And it wants nothing but your best interest. So you're never anywhere safer than in the arms of your intuition. So it's so interesting to me that the world has created this whole this whole counterintuitive brainwashing that intuition's something to be afraid of, but it's the only thing not to be afraid of, really. Once we understand it and can trust it, it's the only thing we can 100% truly count on is our own intuition and our own truth and that connection to the universal truth that's all around us. So don't be afraid. It's not scary. It's the opposite of scary. It will do nothing but improve your life and make you feel better and help you discover who you really are amongst this crazy, crazy world.
Now, you being with the background that you have in arts and that, because I read a little bit on your background, have you applied this stuff to your work?
Absolutely. I think everything that I did in my technology career was following my intuition. And it was so funny because I did some pretty extraordinary things. I worked for a tech company. I'm an artist. I graduated with a degree in oil painting. Okay. So that's where my head was at in college. Never cared about all this money stuff and everything, but I had to eat. So I went and I got into graphic design and I started working at this tech company. And I really sort of grew into this tech company. And what we did there was we were actually a technology council. So our job was to help technology companies to grow and innovate and do all these things. So I got into this position where I started working with the arts and creative technology companies, which is things like Google, things like game designers, all that stuff that's really cool and leading edge, robotics, artificial intelligence. So I'm out here working with all these people, super smart people with PhDs, Carnegie Mellon University, all the really, really, really brainiacs, right? And I'm sitting there at the table with these super smart people, and I realized it was my intuition that got me to this place, right? I didn't have degrees, I didn't have fancy learning out there, I mean, I'd have degrees, but not like those kind of degrees, not like those super smart degrees. But it was by following my intuition that I got to sit at those tables because I was able to try these new things and experiment in these ways that became genius. And I got invited to, I got elected to the Americans for the Arts Advisory Board for the work I was doing with the creative economy and technology and intuition and innovation and all of that stuff. So, it really informed my whole career path. And so one of the things I always tell people when, if you're out there and you're an entrepreneur, or you're starting a business, or even the work that you're doing in your job, is really learning to follow yourself, right? Intuition is about following ourselves and not other people, right? Not keeping up with what everybody else is doing, not doing the same thing. It's about following your own voice and going your own way and creating those new things that are specifically yours and unique to you. And that's really where the secret sauce is for business success.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you've done some award-winning work as well, right? If I understand what I read.
Yeah, I started something called the Create Festival in Pittsburgh about 10 years ago. And that was really to celebrate all of these applications of intuition in the arts and technology. And, we had people from all around the world come and speak, and artists, technologists. And it really was, really a groundbreaking event. Nobody in America was doing anything like it. And I think it really helped a lot of people, and it raised a lot of awareness of how important for the future intuition is, because creativity is, the creative jobs now are slated to be the #1 jobs for the future, because, the machines can do so much, but the one thing they can't do is they can't yet, we don't know how long it's going to take, but as of now, they can't innovate, they can't create or ideate the way that we can. So that's the place where the jobs of the future are going to be. And by investing our youth in this, and the young people, and encouraging intuition at a young age, we can raise new generations of people who, instead of having that intuition pushed down like we did, that are actually step into that intuitive genius by having it fostered from a young age.
Do you have any students that you can tell me about that have had success?
Yeah, well, one of my, oh my gosh, so many. One of my I don't want to say favorite, but one of my most interesting students, actually two students, work, and totally unbeknownst to them, both worked at Uber. And so it's the thing, when I started out this IntuitionLab, I started attracting wonderful people. There's wonderful people that come to the school, and we usually have cohorts of 20 or 30 people that go through each of my courses. They're 6-week courses. And the one course, we're working, and, one of my students, he's actually a manager at Uber, is in charge of the robotic cars and all the stuff that they're doing. And I'm just like, I love that you're in this class. And he's like, no, I get intuition. I get it because, I use it as a manager. I use it to connect with my people and to have empathy. I use it in the products I create to do new things and to be more inventive. And it's so important in everything I do. And then it turns out that another student in the class was also worked at Uber, and only they didn't even know each other. So I had like a high percentage of Uber students, and you would not expect that in an intuition class. So it was really exciting to me to see that branching out and coming out of the fringes, and really I look at my students, and they're all different types of students, everything from yoga teachers to attorneys to moms to, to you name it, like marketing people. It's just a reflection that everybody's intuitive, so anybody can develop it.
That's interesting. Did you ever have anybody come in that was kind of questioning it? When they first came in, and you had to really massage it. You know what I mean by massaging it in to get them to do it.
Yeah, a number of people, and when I first started out doing this program, I did some beta testing, and I just invited people that I knew to come into the course. I didn't charge people, and I realized that some people came in with these hesitations, and they thought like I was a little crazy, and they were just trying to be nice, that kind of thing. And overwhelmingly, I could say without fail, every person who actually got in there and started doing it, they're like minds blown when they actually get in there and they're doing this stuff for themselves, and they're seeing something. They're like, should be impossible, and I'm doing it. I just did something that should be impossible. I just knew something that there was no way for me to know. When you have those little moments, it can be as simple as something like that. Suddenly you have to take pause, and you have to say, okay, there's more to life than I've experienced. There's more to life than they're telling me. Right. And I want to find out where that can go. And I want to find out how far I can take that. So I think overwhelmingly, even the people who are reluctant and unsure, once they took that chance on their intuition and had that first experience, then there's no going back after that. Then you realize that, the world's not the same anymore.
Going back to something we talked about earlier about the different types of psychics, and different types of abilities. I had a friend of mine who's psychic who did a TV show where they tested these psychics, and it was unfair because, like you say, all psychics don't have the same ability. And this guy was testing them, here's an envelope with a photo in it. Tell me what's going on. How do you feel about stuff like that? What do you say to the skeptics?
Yeah, well, I don't think and that's in any way an intuition test. That's a mind test, and that's the thing. Like, they trick you. They're like, oh, we're gonna test your psychic powers by making you use your mind to try and guess which. So the whole system's flawed, and it bugs me too. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I hear this all the time, and even when I was young, I used to do them, and I was like, why am I so bad at this? I never get them right. Like, I was the worst at those things. And it's because, unless you were trained to use your intuition, unless you are actually learn how to use your intuition to do that. Like, if you actually practice and actually go through a process where you know how to use your intuition to do that, you can get better results. But the everyday person is going to fall back on their mind. And even someone who has specific gifts, right? That's not necessarily their gift. It's a great point. That might not be their thing. They might be a feeler. They're not a knower, right? So unless you're in that zone or you have some kind of understanding of that process, that thing's not going to work for you. One thing that I think works for an overwhelming number of people is remote viewing. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's a thing, and I do that a lot in my classes. And it is so much fun because almost everybody gets something right, and it's one of those things where I don't know, are you familiar with Russell Targ and the work that he did with all the stuff with the Third Eye Spies and stuff? And he talks about in that movie how he does the remote viewing, and like everybody got the waterfall, like half the class got it, because it's something that is actually intuitive, right? It's not like, oh, I have to make a choice between things with my brain. I have to pull down information that I literally have no idea about. And that's why intuition is so great, because when you're a psychic, it's so much easier to read a total stranger than it is to read your mom or someone in your family, because your mind gets in the way and your mind knows all this stuff, right? The thing about intuition, there's no mind. You got to get in that place of no mind. So you have to let your imagination come in, and you just let this nothingness come in. It's so much easier to do something like remote viewing than it is to sit down and try and get your mind out of the way enough to guess what's on a picture on the other side, or to guess which card is blue or red. You know what I mean?
Right. How do you do remote viewing exactly? How do you do it?
Oh my gosh. Well, it depends on where you're at. I do it online in my online course. We have a whole session on remote viewing. And so, typically I'll just pick a place, and sometimes I'll take pictures of it, and I'll work that way since we're remote. I'll take pictures of it, or sometimes like the way Russell Targ did it, they have someone in a place. They say, this is a person in a place, describe it, right? And they have a cameraman there so they can do that, but can't have a cameraman there, so we'll take pictures. And then have people either draw what they see, write down words that come to their mind, just open their mind and focus on this destination or this place of choice. And meanwhile, I'll have been putting my attention on it, and we'll have that sort of space activated. And then and everybody comes up with different stuff. Some person might get phrases, some person might get colors. That like, there's a yellow room and it's yellow, right? Different things happen. But it's so interesting then to watch all these different people pull down these different pieces based on their own sensibilities. So there's so much more flexibility for your intuition to speak to you in your own way.
So they're not fed any information ahead of time at all on these things when they do it?
Oh, no, not at all. It's one of the best ways to actually get psychic validation, because you can do it with absolutely no information about anything. You can literally just pull down that data from the universe. It's there.
Yeah, I used to work with one remote viewer, and she was something, boy. I used to have her do them before our prelims, and I'd be walking into these houses, and the walls were yellow, the door was in front of me, there were rocking chairs over here where she told me, and I was just like, wow.
It's awesome.
You know, I can't do that, but I was just wondering how.
Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can.
I'm going to apply myself.
I think you can do it if you gave yourself the chance to really do it and open your mind. I think you'd be surprised. It would probably blow your mind how much you can do it. It's actually the easiest thing. It's the easy thing. My dad could do it, and he's not intuitive at all.
When you do a session like that, how long does it usually last?
Well, that's the thing with intuition. It's super fast. It doesn't take long. You know, the thing that takes the longest is for people to like relax and get into the zone where they start getting the information, because some people might get nervous. Some people might worry they're not going to get anything. But once you get into that zone and open your mind, boom, it'll just boom, boom, boom. It'll come out. And like, it takes 30 seconds. So it's very quick once you get into that space.
Fabulous. What website can people find you at?
So you can go to my website, kimchestney.com, and then I have there a free Wake Up Your Intuition guide. It's a 12-page guide. You can get that now, and you can also get this 10-day event for free right now as well. And you can also check out my school, intuition-lab.com. And the book is available. I have links for the book in both of those places. And if you do get the book, I have a free toolkit that you can get on my website that goes with the book. It's a companion, and it has all these little guides and cards and things, fun things you can use to practice. So definitely grab that if you get the book. It's free. And
real quick question is, with all that's going on right now for people, you know, and the vaccines coming and all that, do you see this stuff coming to an end at some point to where we're going to get back to normal, or are we going to have to stay cautious?
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be a time where we have to stay cautious just because there's going to be a transition time. But I mean, I personally feel the shift already. I feel the shift starting to happen. I mean, in very subtle ways. And I'm opening space for a better summer for all of us next year, and for the ability to reconnect and learn from what we've been through. And I hope more than anything that we do that, and that, you know, we don't go back to some of the things that we did before that weren't great, you know, but that we use this as an opportunity to change and grow. Because this is our lesson. If we don't learn it this time, it's going to be worse next time. You know, and we got off pretty easy. I mean, the pandemic could have been worse. It could have been like you know, you just get it and die, and like you turn black like the old days, and you know, it's like everyone dies. You know, relatively speaking, you know, things could have been worse. And if we don't listen to this wake up call, you know, I worry that, you know, the next one's going to, you know, it's like whisper, shout, roar kind of thing, just like your intuition. You know, we got to learn our lessons. So I do think it's going to open, and I think we're going to have an opportunity to grow. And we just got to hang in there just a little bit longer.
Well, what I was thinking when we were talking about that earlier, too, was like the Roman Empire, you know, because every empire gets to a certain point and then something causes it to crumble. Mm-hmm. So like you say, hopefully this is a wake-up call, and this empire, so to speak, doesn't end up crumbling with all the infighting, you know, all the battling everybody's doing. You know, everybody at some point comes together.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much divisiveness right now, but, you know, I think that, you know, it just really, it takes time, and it takes a little suffering and pain to really get through times like this. But, you know, I like I said, all I can say is I can feel the shift, and I do hope that momentum continues, and that we all can find a way to live together and grow this beautiful country into something wonderful, because it was founded on wonderful things, and well, mostly wonderful things, but like a lot of wonderful things. And, you know, the vision was there. And if we could make that actual vision a reality, you know, they had a good vision, and we can work towards that. And our intuition can help us come together and all love each other and support each other and accept each other and live the lives that we all know we're meant for.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was great. I had a great time.
Fun. And me, Charlotte.
At some point down the line, I'd love to have you on again, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
All right. Well, I'm gonna after I get off tonight, I got another guest coming on, but I'm gonna start reading your book tonight. Awesome. I want to have some of that radical intuition going for me.
That's right.
You have a good evening, okay?
You too.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, that was Kim Chestney talking about radical intuition. Our next guest has built himself up to be a staple here in Sacramento. In fact, his nickname is Henry Community Healer, because he does do a lot of community work, and he helps a lot of the people coming out on parole. He's been working. He works at he works with prisoners. He works with younger kids and teenagers. And he just does so much that it's incredible. So I want to bring in Henry Ortiz. See if he's ready. I see him coming on. There we go.
Hey, how we doing?
Hey, what's up? How's it
Charlotte,
going?
good evening. Good evening to you and your team, the guests that listen to your program. So thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. Appreciate all your support that you've provided to us since I've been out here these past 3 years.
There you go. Tell everybody about yourself. Tell them about your background and all that, and we'll get this thing going.
Okay. Well, I was a young man. I grew up in a dysfunctional home. My father left when I was 5. And eventually, I had to go through a cycle of physical abuse, right? Growing up with a step parent and with parents and growing up in a gang infested neighborhoods, right? One of the neighborhoods being one of the top murder capitals per city, right? And so eventually, by the age 11, I got pulled into the gangs, even though I told myself I wasn't going to get involved with gangs. It's just the nature of the environment. You're fighting other young people over streets, over egos, over lack of understanding one another, over fears and insecurities, over traumas that get projected upon one another, and we get so focused and consumed fighting amongst ourselves that we forget to see of all the barriers, the systemic barriers that we're bringing upon ourselves. Once we're basically giving up over 3,500 civil rights, we're giving up our freedom, we're giving up our lives. For a lifestyle that always ends either going to end up dead, incarcerated, or mentally, just checked out, right, with mental health issues. And so by the time I was 18, I ended up in prison and was gone for like about 18 years out of the 21 years. And so, and there I did a lot of work around helping find people basically get to know themselves. Who's your spiritual nature? Or like our previous guest was talking about the intuition, right? Your inner calling, your inner knowing who are you called to be, what are your strengths, what has been your journey, what is your purpose in this earth, right, before you go, and how can you maximize your experience as a human being, right? And what are you willing to give to others? What seeds, what legacy, what are you willing to do for other people, right? And so sometimes, those of us that have created the most harm are sometimes become the most passionate people when it comes to creating healing and change in the communities that we once terrorized and harmed. And so that's been my mission. I co-founded an organization called Self Awareness and Recovery, based on the fact that the clinical doctors, and whatever mental health treatment they had, it wasn't connecting with their people. There's cultural barriers. There's experiences that need to be relatable. There's verbiage and there's credibility that folks seek when you're becoming a community healer or a messenger or a credible messenger, as some say, or just a facilitator, as we would call ourselves in there, right? We were facilitating healing, we were facilitating healing between a person that created harm and a person that was harmed, a survivor of harm. And how do we get them to process on their own together with other communities like them and people, and vice versa? And then how do we bring these people together to make some profound changes, some transformative discussions where people really find true healing, restorative healing, as opposed to the criminal justice systems that, hey, we convicted this person, they're going to prison for a long time or maybe for the rest of their life, and that's the end of the problem. No, it doesn't stop there. These people have to bury their loved ones. They have to go and go through all kinds of mental phases, generational phases, because now there's a loved one missing at the family, or there's an emotional and mental impact based on that trauma that stays with you, that affects your relationships, affects your working environment, and in general consumes you and deteriorates you. Kind of like the theories of the adverse childhood experiences, right? We die younger because we go through so much high rates of stress. We don't eat healthy. We don't sleep at all, right? Because sometimes when you have trauma, you have insomnia. We have ADHD and lack of concentration. All these different things that happen. All kinds of mental clinical issues that I don't have the credentials to speak on, right? But I've done some research on many of them. I've done my I've got my little academic background, but more than anything, I have my lived experience from listening to hundreds of stories, hours of learning
Right.
and sharing and transformational change through people relating with one another.
Well, you did time as well, right? And
Yeah.
what did you learn while you were in prison, and then to bring that knowledge out to being
Okay,
out?
so there's some things that are just unexplainable, right? Kind of how some of the things you guys were talking earlier, some of the work that you do, right? Just because you can't see something, right, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? There's energies, there's forces. So at 16, I remember I was in juvenile hall, and I was involved in the gangs, and we were doing shootings and high speed chases with the cops, and sometimes you'll get caught for a high speed chase with the cop as opposed other drastic things, and so you got to go do time. And so, like, I was in a cell. I was 16 years old. I was kind of like, trying to figure my life out. Like, where am I headed to? Like, this is I really need to get my crap together, because this anger is unmanageable, this pain is unmanageable in this lifestyle. But it was so addicting to the lifestyle. Your friends, your comrades, right? Or your homeboys, as you call them, right? Our homegirls, they become your family, and so you become so drawn to this communal connection, right? And then it's fed by hurt people validating other people's hurt people's wounds, and only engaging in hurting behavior to carry out the mission of your organization, which would be a gang or whatever, right? Or your collective. And so, I seen a lot of pain. I seen a lot of people with, the whole tattoos and the 9 yards and the big long records and the treacherous backgrounds, but really seeing deep hurted people that have been victims of mental abuse, neglect, abandonment, emotional abuse, even sexual abuse. I mean, some of the most horrific childhoods that kids can go through. And it's like you start seeing the correlation, how all this hurt and all this pain turns into this anger, this rage that sometimes creates this dysfunctional and destructive behaviors and lifestyles. And so, I learned that what, we're not bad people. We're hurt people, and hurt people hurt people. But when heal people, heal people, right? And so, and I spent, at 16, I knew something in my spirit told me, I was reading a lot of spiritual books, the Bible. The first time I ever read the Bible, I was 16 years old. I read the whole freaking book, right? And so I had this inner spiritual enlightening, and something told me, like, I was going to go to prison by the time I was 18, and I was going to go there for a long time. It's going to be for something serious, but the creator was going to put me in the fire, mold me, break my ego, heal my wounds, and use me, right? And so I was kind of like, at that time, even though I was fighting with my demons, I would get out and I was back in my environments and back in the people, with the same people, places, and things that lead to the same circumstances, you know, trying to survive that life while trying to find better change, but just running out of time, and eventually just my pain and my hurt and my anger just becoming so heavy on me that I just lashed it out into the community, and I just stopped caring, right? And create a lot of harm, and so, and there I found, I started finding, I found my purpose, I found my freedom, my mental and emotional freedom. And so I was able to not only find my mental spiritual freedom, but I was, like, also able to enlighten other people within my community, within the different programs I went to, whether they was their programs, whether I was a facilitator, whether I helped start these programs or started programs, right? Yeah, I got involved in a lot of community healing work, and to make us better people, to make us wiser people. And then we started organizing around college, how to get our people to get free college. And so that became, because they took all our stuff. They took college from folks, So by the time I landed in prison, right, they got rid of the weights, the boxing programs, the college, anything that would keep you sane and give you self-esteem and keep you like healthy. Convicts were well respected back in the days, and then it came the era where they started labeling folks as offenders and inmates, and they started exploiting these horrible crimes and just kind of like brainwashing the masses, tough on crime, war on drugs, just to manipulate communities to push an agenda that really was war on black and brown people or communities of color or people impacted by poverty, because there's a lot of white and Asian communities and Samoans and so forth of these communities of color that are impacted. And so, for a long time, they were the chain masters, right? Over 30 years of oppression. And so over time, the little organizations that started planting the seeds to make systemic changes, became coalitions with other organizations. And so now we're doing phenomenal changes. All the bills that we pushed for went through, and so I just got off of parole on the 22nd. We passed Prop 17, voting rights for people on parole. And so I'm gonna start engaging a little bit more now that we're going into the third phase of COVID-19, and it just looks like doing things to the phone is gonna be the way we do business, and it's not so bad, right? You can get your snack, you don't gotta get all fancy and waste gas and time. And so I'm gonna start doing some community healing trainings to get communities to heal, especially right now with our young people. There's two murders at the mall that right now has left this family just devastated, from the same family losing two kids. It's heavy, and so, there's a lot going on in Sacramento, and then there's historical gang politics that, play into the equation. And then young minds without fathers, without, the nourishment, with layers of trauma, hurt people concept thinking, and lack of effective programs to really help them, or programs that are doing great work but that are beyond the capacity because it's such a big problem. And the cultural influences are so strong that some of these people, even if you try to help them, these young people, they're stuck on what they're stuck in. They want to go through their phases, and they have to go through their process at times as they think, right? And so it's been pretty tough.
So you go out to school. Well, before COVID-19, obviously, you would go out to schools and talk to kids. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I got out of prison in 2017, November 2017, during the holiday weekend of Thanksgiving. So I didn't have access to phones and all that stuff. But 5 days later, I get basically incarcerated, saying that I was affiliated, because they assumed that I was affiliating with gang members. When reality, I took the people in a transitional home when that the prison sends you to for your 6 months transition process to eat. I take these people that I live with to eat because they haven't ate, to buy clothes, to get them job opportunities, right? And connect them with some of the resources I have down there. And so because we're together, the cops labeled us, right? So that became a blessing. I came to Sacramento a couple of months later, and my first day working with my nonprofit that my friend and I co-founded, a man who did 39 years, right? Just even though it wasn't the best pay at all, it was hardly nothing, but it was a kickstart. We were just starting, right? And so you got to give in order to receive.
You had 5 days. You were only out for 5 days, and you already had these resources helping other people.
Yeah. She's right. She's right. So like for me, like I didn't start doing the work that I'm doing out here. I started doing it in there. We were working with youth in there. They would bring them in there from like unified school districts, and we do like role plays with them. It wasn't a scare straight program. It was a workshop, transformational type of healing program. And so I did work in there, and then eventually out here I was working in Luther Burbank High, going in there about sometimes 5 days a week, 4 days, to eventually 3, to eventually once a week, because you get budget cuts. You don't get grants, and you lose staff, and you lose capacity. And so you're always, when you're a nonprofit, you're always fighting to get funding just to survive. You're lucky if you're even surviving, because most of your time is you're volunteering to make a difference in these communities and these young people. And so we were able to bring some of the youth that were from two opposing gangs to finally be at the same space and be in community and workshops and heal and talk about vulnerable emotions of trauma amongst each other and trust each other and like bring down the violence for the first time in 20 years at the school. Then the following school year, I don't want just communities of one color. I want communities of multiple colors, but with the highest trauma needs. That became a bigger challenge because we had some of the students, they had one of them threw a garbage can at one of our mentors, and he kept us cool, and we would try to advocate with them to bring them back into the classroom to avoid the suspension and everything. But the schools have their cameras and they have their policies and their procedures, right? But we always kept believing and kept planting seed, and a lot of times we didn't have the best training, right? Because a lot of teachers from Luther Burbank retired or quit crying because these kids are tough. They're tough, and so you have to be very creative. You have to basically do impromptu when you're working with to get them to focus on your lesson plan. But and so eventually I started doing work at Cesar Chavez a school at Yolo with kids on probation and stuff, and then eventually I had to pull away because funding was tough with the organization. I got it going, but we got close to $1 million in grants, and now they're servicing a lot of the youth now via the phones, whether they be or people that are incarcerated. So we did a lot of reentry work. I still help people when they need letters of support to get out, when folks need a housing. I got the partners here that run transitional housing. Everything's about just having the right partners. When you know how to collaborate and you know how to bring business to all these partners and you build relationships, you're going to be more effective in the work that you do, because community is number one when it comes to helping our people, and it has to be collaborative with all the organizations that are out here.
We lost you on camera, buddy. Shift your camera around.
Oh, okay.
I'm
You
looking
can't
at
see
a
me?
wall. I'm looking at a wall.
Can you see me or what? No.
No, I see a little bit of you, but I mean, I see your shoulder, I think.
Okay, like this.
Oh, there's your hat. I see the top of your hat. You gotta lower it.
Oh, is it too low?
Yeah, it's too high.
Oh, it's showing different over here on my focal point. Okay,
Yeah.
it's cool. Is that good right there?
No, I can't see you. I'm looking at the wall.
Are you serious?
Okay, there's your face right there, dude.
Oh, you got a whole different angle with your guys' lenses over there. Okay, the view is different. Okay. Your body scope back. Okay.
Now move it over a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Right here.
There we go.
Okay. I see your angle. Okay.
I lost you there.
Yeah. Sorry, a call came in and then the camera went out. So it went crazy. But long story short, worked about at 7 schools in a period of like 2 years, and then eventually did some work out there in Stockton with fathers and families in San Joaquin, training 21 facilitators to work at 7 schools. And so it's a challenge sometimes working with our young people, right? Because it can be challenging, but it doesn't mean that's impossible. And all they need is investment and love.
How did you learn to do to go out to work with these kids? Did you take any courses or anything like that?
Well, a lot of it was a variety of different things. A lot of reading of books, a lot of my own self-reflections, a lot of processing. I was very analytical. A lot of watching PBS documentaries, a lot of understanding, watching some of the PBS specials and reading books on behavior science and getting a lot of having authors, like Doug Noll, author of The Escalate, who taught me mediation skills and core messaging and different styles of listening, layers of victim offender needs, going through victim offender programs and facilitating, going through criminals and gangs anonymous concepts and learning directly from the stories through the curriculums and teaching them, learning them, and just having great trainers that were there for me, and good authors that I was able to read, but most importantly, reflecting on my own experiences as a human being, recognizing my strengths and my shortcomings, my ego, and all these other layers of things that we go through.
Now you guys go out, and I've seen this where you guys have gone out to pass clothes out to the poor and stuff. Not the poor, but I mean the homeless. I'm not going to say poor. I'm not going to do that stigma. But is this stuff all donated, and what do you do with that? How do you do that?
Say that again. You were talking about this little dog over here trying to fight with the cat. I got a little sidetracked. Say it again.
I've seen you guys go out and make and give food, cook food and take stuff out to people.
Okay. So there's various partners doing different work, right? And sometimes I'll go put in work with some organizations because sometimes I need them to come and help me change policies. Hey, we got to go
Dude,
to the
you're like,
Capitol. I'm gonna go.
I see you really close. Your eyeballs in my face.
Oh,
Back
too
up a
close.
little bit. Yeah, back
Sorry.
up a little
Damn,
bit.
that's your camera is
What's
way
that? I
in a whole
can't see
different
nothing,
angle.
man.
Okay, is this good right here?
What do you guys see? Oh, that's my face. That's the
Can you see?
audience too.
Is this good
No,
or
see,
what?
I'm just seeing like.
Keep doing it until
Or put okay, or maybe you know what? Get on your Facebook likes. You guys a whole different lens angle from what I'm seeing, but it's cool. We'll roll with it. We'll roll with it. But yeah, to answer your question, it's really just being connected with other organizations like the Village Advocates that
Okay.
they're out here in South Sacramento feeding folks, and Belinda who's out there putting in work. There's all these amazing women who are mothers and grandmothers, like leading some of these causes and feeding the community and really being the strength that we sometimes need at,
Okay.
at this time.
Well, that's cool. And I noticed too when the prisoners were starting to be released, because of COVID, you guys were also out there giving them clothes and stuff to get them started, right?
Well, yeah. Well, over here in Sacramento, we did local county fights. You know, with all our different organizations. They did their county work, and so over here with like Decarcerate SAC and the Anti-Police Terror Project, and then the head district, the head public defender. With their support, we were able to put in motions and paperwork to get about 1,400 folks out of the county jail as COVID was hitting. Then we did a lot of state work, and there was close to about 20,000 people that were released based on actions at the governor's house, protests and letters and meetings with their elected officials and Twitter freaking. Messaging to him and all that stuff. And so, through those efforts, we were able to bring down the prison system for the first time in 30 years to about 990 something thousand, right? Because we've been at 175,000. Then it went to 145 and 150. They've been under pressure by the three judge panel, the federal judge panel, because of the lack of so much people incarcerated. There's a lack of support and health services, and so people are dying because they're being medically neglected, and so when folks come out, we make sure we connect them with the right resources and the support, as we're also changing laws to bring them home early, but also fighting for their civil and human rights while they're incarcerated.
Cool. Now we'll go back a little bit. You do a lot of stuff at the Capitol. You guys have gotten some bills passed. You put together rallies and all this. Tell me about that.
So I think one of the biggest powerful bills I think that I've been a part of with all our statewide partners is AB 392. After they killed Stefan Clark and Ann Schubert, came out saying that we're going to be charged for murder. And we went out, we protested, we tried to keep the peace with our people, make sure our people are safe. But we got cornered by like over 700 officers in the bridge. It was a lot of freaking cops from different counties. I've never seen that many cops, so they were prepared, like soldiers, like troops, and they cramped us in this freeway where it's dark and all you see is their flashlights, and then pulling one person at a time and arresting them. And so it was so out of line that they dismissed the DA dismissed the charges the following day, right? So after that, we came together with a lot of great organizations, local ones like ACLU and just various, right? So I don't want to get down into the list of orgs. And so we met with our elected officials and our representatives, our assembly members, and our senators, and we went out there. We changed the bill that had been around for 200 years or so, right? Through AB 392, which is a police accountability bill. and you know, but these murders are still happening. You just got two recently in the past 2 weeks. We had two people get killed by officers, an African American person and a Latino, within a time period of 10 days. This month has been a very a tragic, a daily month for Sacramento, and so I mean, yeah, in November, whatever, right? So yeah, it's just you know, recently we passed voting rights for people on parole. You know, Prop 17. You know, we did a big national, I mean, a big statewide campaign, but we also did national events with, you know, we got like 24 chapters across the country where we're getting our communities to vote, but also to fight for local bills in their respective state. And so we were successful in securing that. And there's just been a long list of different bills, you know, bills that deal with sometimes with incarceration. I know this upcoming year we'll be working on trying to end the three strikes, because the three strikes is just, you know, it's just it's like another death sentence, right? But it's also, you know, so insane and so abusive and so discriminatory, with the amount of time you can give a human being for some of the most minor infractions or you know, offenses or sometimes felonies, right?
Now, what I want to make clear to people is that you do this stuff, and like you said earlier, you don't get paid a lot to do this stuff. This is stuff that's coming from your heart that you want to do, right?
Yes, yes. Well, you know, like I told you, so it goes back down to what when I was 16 in that cell, where the creator, my Lord, told me, "Hey, boy, I'm gonna send you to prison. I'm gonna break that little ego. I'm gonna put you in a fire, but I'm gonna rebuild you and I'm gonna use you." Right. So when I was looking at the rest of my life in prison, and my Creator had mercy on me, and I promised him that if He had mercy on me, He didn't give me life. He just gave me a little ounce of hope, and let me find my way out, that I will live the rest of my life in service to him. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm honoring, for one, the memory of my victims who lost their lives, and also honoring my Creator, and also the people who I've been a part of being in healing spaces with, whether they were role models or influenced me, or whether I was their role model and I influenced them, that became my community, and to represent them, and the light that it needs to be represented, that we're human beings. We do a lot of stupid stuff when we're young, because we're hurt. But you know, there eventually we start getting older, and the adrenaline starts kind of, you know, toning down, and the testosterone and all these different things that keep us, you know, that make us wild at times, because we're traumatized, and we start finding healing, and we start learning from each other, we start growing, and we start becoming some amazing people. And so that's what I fight for, is that our incarcerated population that's been impacted by trauma, are treated and honored for the amazing people that they are, and the amazing contributions that they can give to their communities once coming back from a journey of long-term incarceration.
Cool. And I remember you guys doing pop-up parties as well. And was that a way to maybe help, kind of help keep these kids off the streets a little bit? You know.
You know what? You know what, Charlie? I gotta give you credit. You've been keeping track, because you forget about all the different of stuff, right? Sometimes we're fighting housing issues. We're doing youth work. Through that we opened up. We did a press conference with the mayor a couple of years back, after kids were getting jumped. Kids like Christina Robinson's daughters, who got jumped twice there. You know, whose son had to get a gun to try to defend his family, and accidentally killed himself. Right? Who was part of this press conference, who has sacrificed a lot with me out here. And yet, you know, we got this money. You know, my organization, SAR, who I was with at the time, is getting some of that funding, and you know, they did great pop-ups, and it's great for local kids or for kids at the schools. But it's not doing anything for the kids that are not going to school. The kids that are lost, who have the highest trauma rates, who are dropping out of school, who are dying, who are overdosing, who need the most support from everybody coming together, not just the organizations. Everybody is responsible for caring, for planting seeds, for making contributions to bring down this violence, and healing these troubled young people, man, because they're suffering hard, and their suffering is being reflected on the pain that they're causing in the communities. So yeah, those pop-ups, we did that, but you know what, it was kind of disheartening, because when we did that press conference with the Sierra Health Foundation, mayor's office, and with all our community partners, it was to try to like bring down that violence in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And and I know that it's beyond a lot of these organizations' capacity because it's tough. I was running an organization and I knew how tough it is. It's challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now I just organize. I'm a community healer and I do organizing. I work with organizations. How do we uplift you? How do we support you, right? But if people haven't made the time to come into a collective to evaluate the weaknesses in do a SWOT analysis of each other's organization so we can study the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats so we can learn how to build this working relationship where each organization is complementary to each other as opposed to being competitive to one another. And that's what I've been organizing, and that's why I left my organization because I didn't want to get caught up in the nonprofit industrial complex. And it's not to ever demolish nonprofits because I still work for a nonprofit and I value the work that nonprofits do, and I think that we just gotta have more community engagement
Mm-hmm.
discussions where we can learn from each other, we can train each other, so we can do better quality work by being more inclusive of one another. And so that's those have been my efforts as well, and doing some of that work. You know what I mean?
Well, I've seen you speak, live, yeah. I've seen you speak, and you're very passionate about your stuff. Have you had any kids that from the community that have come up and said, "Hey, man, you made a big difference in my life"?
You know what? It's kind of crazy because you plant the seeds. I just plant the seeds. I plant the seeds, but I rely on community to water those seeds, right? And I every now and then I run into folks and like they light up and I see the growth. I see the seeds that were planted. I see these kids that were on their way to prison. They were on probation. They were already fighting cases, and at 16, 17, we caught them right before they turned 18, and here it is, they're 21 years now or whatever, right? Or they're 18 or whatever, right? And so just like see that they're still out here is the most inspirational thing for me. And yeah, they of course they give me their gratitude. They show me a lot of love, and so it's always solid. It's always solid.
Now, during the protests that were going on, I know you were out there trying to keep the young kids or the kids from fighting and trying to
Well,
keep peace out there.
the goal is that, hey man, I wanna uh, I wanted our people to come out there to speak, to support us in these efforts and these important issues that affect their communities, especially when it comes to race. And so, but I wanted it for them to do it collaboratively. And so sometimes when you got a lot of young people, young people are insecure and there's egos and there's assumptions and there's cliques and things could get very messy. And so that was my goal, is to keeping them, and but then I also trusted the process. We schooled everybody, and the majority, 85% of the protesters got it right. They
Mm-hmm.
these young people, they amongst themselves developed the tools to keep each other accountable and to maintain the peace. And so all we had to do is just kind of like navigate, and allowing our young leadership to evolve and unfold, as opposed to us telling them what they should and should not say, what they should feel or not feel, right? They they
Mm-hmm.
they, they have eyes, they have intelligence, they have emotions, they have feelings, they have family that are part of this problem, and they are directly impacted themselves. So they are experts of these matters, right? And so all we need to do is just guide them and plant those seeds, and pushing that. And sometimes things get messy in the city, right? There's damages, and I'm not into condoling or any of those kind of things, but I'm not into judging it either, because that's a reflection of pain. That's a reflection of injustice of a community that's satisfied with our elected officials and our government, right?
You also do work outside of Sacramento. It's not just Sacramento, right?
Yes, yes. Wow, man. Yeah, Charlotte, man. You do your homework, huh? You do your homework, sis. Man, that's what's up. Yeah. So I work for an organization right now. All of us are none. I work part-time with them, but basically putting full-time work sometimes, right? But of course I got my project with henrycommunityhealer.org, and went for my book and the curriculums and trainings and training other folks to do that project, while also trying working with Christina to evolve communityhealers.org as a nonprofit, to be able to apply for these grants to hire more of our people to do more healing work and do more of the different layers of work that I've had to do, working with youth, whether it's events or workshops, working with returning incarcerated people, and then changing policies. And so, and then also doing community healing work. Like, these are all different departments that would run under one organization. These were departments that I would run for the most part when I was running self-awareness and recovery with my friend Daniel. And so the good thing that came out of that is that I picked up so much skills, and that it just with the right funding to hire the right people and train them, we could do some amazing work, because you get to multiply the skills through the people.
Cool. I have a question in the chat room. Have you had any memorable cases that stand out, like in anybody that maybe even in prison that you knew that stand out with the work you do?
Well, I'm gonna tell you about Oscar Figueroa. He was a young brother at a Hollywood, and that got incarcerated at 16. Right, this young man was running. He was just running through the street, right? But because he was a gang member, as they say, he was a gang member. Right? He was in the gang. I don't say he's a gang member. He's a human being. But he was involved with with the street gangs that we all just fall into because of culture, because of need to love, because at home we're just getting nagged at, and we don't feel validated, we don't feel valued, we don't feel respected. But in the lifestyle amongst our peers, we get that, right? And so there had been a shooting. And so they incarcerated him because he was running, and they built a whole case, and he went to prison, and I met him in there, and he was a very shy, timid guy. And when I would do the events there, I would bring organizations like Silicon Valley's Debug to do our self-awareness and recovery's annual rehabilitation celebration events. I would bring other organizations. I would generate art from all the artists from another arts program that I started in there to give back to and donate to one of those organizations at the end of the event. I got the incarcerated folks or people to do plaques, and like little guitars was one to honor different leaders that were coming, enter and speaking, and also training our people to speak, and to, and I would do my music, my original music. And Oscar, I trained him to facilitate and to tell his story through this model of transformation I created when I was incarcerated. That we still Daniel still teaches today through self-awareness and recovery, and that I use as reference when in my practices of healing. And so when I got out, I felt so bad leaving him because I know that he was wrongfully convicted, right? And so I started having flashbacks, and I told him, one time, the movie producer from The Hangover, named Scott Budnick, who's also a founder of another great organization that works for our people called the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. There's one in Sacramento and LA. And so he came, and Daniel and him came in. We and him were still incarcerated and came into the prison, and we told Oscar, says, bro, you're not. He had to like 2025, right? Or 2035. I said, you're not gonna do that work all that time. Mark our words. They already passed the youth offender bills where they prove that your brain does not evolve into your 25, and so now you're able to go to court because there's research and science to say, man, these guys were treated like adults and they're young people. And so, and there was that in his favor, different stuff, and we did letters of support. We advocated, and so he's been out for like almost 9 months now, a year, and so so to me that was my greatest joy. Knowing somebody that was wrongfully convicted, that was such a great person, they made profound changes in her to grow, to now be free here as a free man with me, working, surviving, and doing great things in his community.
Cool. Now you also teach a class.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of some contract teachings. I've done a lot of presentations now, not through Zoom, like big national presentation for like the KDAC programs, CCAP, folks. I've done some stuff with the Asian communities, a national conference. They wanted to know more about Latino lives and Black Lives Matter movements and thoughts on that. And so they use some of my discussion as part of their training. And so, I also write curriculums, and I teach curriculums, and I teach people how to facilitate, how to do public speaking, how to basically engage your group, how to read the different needs of your group, how to develop group dynamic skills, and then also how to process emotions, thoughts, traumas, how to be accountable for our wrongs, how to do mediation discussions, how to do healing circles, cultural healing practices, and just different evidence-based practices that I've been trained to learn, layers of certificates, right? I might not have a master's degree, right? But the mastery is in the art of engaging and being able to outmaster some of these people that do have master's degrees, right? And and I don't mean that in a big-headed way. I mean it and you could tell when a person does his work, he puts in constant work, constant sacrifice to continue growing and evolving, right? You could just feel it when somebody's really real, when they know their stuff, as opposed to just theory and clinical studies and psychology that just loses people and it's not connecting and engaging emotionally. And that's what people need. They need emotional engagement, emotional nourishment to make healthier choices mentally and to perceive life with a broader perspective of life, and also with the determination and the confidence and the self will to make better choices in their lives, right? So how that comes to the layer of ideally 12-week workshops. I do different 12-week workshops where we go through curriculums that I write based on experiences, based on getting back in tune with your spiritual nature, understanding the components of your inner goodness, the solution and the problem. What all the components of your ego, what that looks like and how that manifests in your life, and how we're living these realities based on pain and trauma, and how we can change it when we start identifying and talking and healing and community about our pain and trauma, so that we can help other people to identify and heal their pain and trauma, right? And so it's been an interesting journey. It's been a very interesting journey. I feel very honored by my creator that even though I don't make what I deserve, I make just what I need, and that keeps me humble. That keeps me grounded, and I'm thankful that I had to sacrifice that like that, because my heart stays with grassroots organizations, because they don't have the grant writers to get all these fancy grants, but they care about the work so much that they sacrifice themselves. Sometimes we deteriorate in health too, because we don't eat healthy. We don't eat at times. We're up at night answering emails and organizing proposals and events and policies and whatnot, right? And so I found myself advocating and pushing movement in various spaces, where they're criminal justice spaces, but also funding spaces, defunding the police. What is that? It's really more about the people's budget, right? It's just about words. Words bring about assumptions to people that, oh my God, what would life be without cops? Well, did you know that back in the days we didn't have cops? We had healing circles. We had ways of dealing and processing community issues, right? When the sheriff's concept came out, they were instituted, to capture slaves. So if you look at how we get captured, when we get incarcerated, or when you get in an argument with an officer for standing up for your rights, when he's in the wrong and he's mad and he's triggered, and now because he has the power to incarcerate you, give you a record, right? You lose power, right? You lose your civil rights. We lose over 3,500 civil rights when we get a record, right? And we're going to be continuing to suffer because of that. But we've been making more opportunities now. We've been in spaces that before we weren't at, and now lawmakers. We've built solid relationships with lawmakers, and we've been able to make some profound statewide changes, and we're just barely getting started, right?
It's exciting. It's exciting to watch the work you do, because I mean, there's so many kids that have fallen into that pit. What do you say to a kid that is starting to look into being involved in gangs or crime?
Well, that you're gonna have to invest some time. You gotta invest time in these people. You can't just do a workshop, once a week, 2 hours. You gotta do ongoing mentorship. Like, what's up, brother? How you doing today, man? What's been going on with you, man? I see you wearing the colors, man. I see you wearing the colors, man. You know what? What do you think the consequences of wearing these colors, or and posting these kind of gang signs on social media is gonna bring you, right? Like get them to explore. Like, you think you're gonna make enemies? Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I'm down. I'm hurting. Basically, I'm hurting, and now I'm ready to let them have it. And so you got an core message, right? So what you're saying is you're so hurt, you're so broken right now. You don't want to deal with that hurt and that brokenness, that you would rather go and take it out on your rival gang members, another brown or black person just like you, who has a mother, who has a daughter just like you, and you just plant these seeds. Is that what you're saying? Okay, and it's just phases. You got to keep planting them, and talking about counseling. So you're willing to spend the rest of your life and you won't ever wear those Jordans no more. You won't have those gold teeth. That watch you're wearing, and your Instagram and your Facebook, all that's gonna be gone. Your girlfriend, that's gonna be gone. Your skateboard, your electrical bike, and that little car you just buy. That your relationship at home, eating what you want to eat. So you just talk about all the different realities that they're gonna face, because nobody tells us these realities and these consequences. And sometimes we're so numb that we're not caring. But sooner or later, on that list of things, ooh, you're gonna hit something that's dear to me. Oh shit! So imagine you not seeing your mother die. She's got diabetes and heart problems. She probably has another 2 more years, brother. Like, imagine you being locked up and you can't be there for her. Imagine you not being able to be there for your sister's wedding, or the labor of, sooner or later you're gonna get them, right? And then and then you also gotta have these discussions amongst their peers. You gotta have social justice discussions, and acknowledge the realities that they're facing. All right, we got some enemies over here. They're over here. They're okay. What can we do? How can we prevent some of this stuff? And then also holding other nonprofits accountable for doing what they're getting paid to do, to service these young people, and making sure that they're connected with those people, and that those people are following up and doing what they're saying they're supposed to be doing. So there's also that kind of organizing that comes into the equation. Building a relationship with the teachers and the principals, because some people don't like the way we talk, don't like the fact that we're impacted. And how are you teaching and you're not even? I had to go to college. So there's that ego of the teachers and whatnot, right? But over time, if you're doing the right thing, if you're planting the right seeds, you're gonna win the masses, and the masses are gonna always speak up for you, and making sure that you're there to execute your work. So, and the community healing work that we're doing, I'm trying to, I'm gonna come back to all these different spaces. I'm gonna come do another 360, but I want to come back with soldiers, with people that are trained and equipped to build the capacity to help these people, so that we can document and research all the people that we're helping, and also understand where we're lacking them at, and create models to change these systems. That's where I'm at. I'm organizing around creating models to change systems. But it took me to go through all these different departments of the work to understand it from the lack of housing perspectives, the way they treat you when you don't have housing, the lack of resources, the organizations that are getting the resources but are not giving them, the medical perspective, right? The mental health and behavioral health perspective, the resources where they're at, and the lack of navigators to connect the dots, right? And so, but then we got to do the funding efforts. We got to go to the Capitol and argue about budgets. We got to go to the city, because this money is always allocated to the same people, the same organizations. So you got to work your way in there to change the culture, to say, hey, we need to start thinking of new approaches, because all these different things that you say you guys are doing, that don't seem to be working. Like, where do you need help? How can we support you? Come work with us. Or, you know what? We're going to have to advocate to distribute that money elsewhere if you don't want to work with folks, right? Like having those tough discussions, right? So it's a lot.
When you talk about the nonprofits, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, what do you mean by that? I mean, there's some nonprofits that say they're doing one thing and then they're just not going through with it, or what?
Well, sometimes it becomes a game of quality over quantity, right? Say, for instance, on these pop-ups, we got money to reduce the youth violence, right? There was even an article that there was no shootings and whatnot. I'm pretty sure it might have been true, right? I don't know. I haven't researched it, right? But you know, the thing is, you know, our strategy, and we were at the negotiating table too. Like we want to do more for young people than just do events. We want to be able to employ them to help these nonprofits, show them how to have skills, be able to bring them in there when we're in space and we could talk about the street politics and get to know who these young people are, who their mothers are, who their families are, so we can go in there and do rapid crisis response without law enforcement, community people saying, I see that you have, you know, 5 kids on your own, and this one's acting up, and you know, he shot one of my mentees, and I want to be able to engage these. Can I have a discussion with your son, and like what were the differences? You're gonna find out in a lot of these cases the differences started with something so small, so irrelevant, but it just contaminated so many people, and it became a war of young kids against young kids over things that could, with some effective mediation skills and effective leadership stepping up, that can be done. But you know, as an individual, I don't have that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
This is not I didn't grow up in this neighborhood. I need the people that I can train from these neighborhoods, the organizations from these communities that have been here for years, that I can train, that I can involve, that we can learn, that we can grow, and that we can implement effective change to change all these whole institutionalized ways of doing business that is not working. We need to always create effective approaches so that we create, effective results. And not waste money, resources, and time and lives.
Cool. Um, oh, I lost my train of thought. It's fascinating listening
It's
to
a
you.
lot. It's a lot. You know, and sorry, it gets a little long, and
No,
it's just
no, no,
different
because
layers of the work,
you're
right?
really so you're so enthused in what you're doing. I mean, anybody that works
I'm
with
on a
you
mission, sister.
is
I'm
going to
on a
get
mission.
into it too, because I mean,
Yeah.
you're just there with it. It's fabulous, and you have you have worked the last couple of years putting together a good staff to work with, right?
Yeah. I built a great, yeah. I had our own staff with my own organization, right, before I left it, but then we lost funding and it reduced. But we always had the people that were there volunteering, and you know, when I did leave the organization, I got close to $1 million in grants, and I instituted the programming, the reentry component, the curriculum, the training, the workshops, everything they need to be effective. They got, and they will flourish as long as they continue doing the work. You know, so I'm proud of them, right? But I wanted to do not only statewide changes, eventually national changes, and now I'm exploring international changes, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's issues like around ICE that are affecting my communities, issues around police brutality and murders from cops, predominantly on African American communities across the country, predominantly Latinos in California, the incarceration rates, right? You know, Gavin Newsom finally closed down DVI and Tracy, right? The first prison to be shut down, and since they just got so crazy building all these prisons, right? From starting from like, you know, 5, 6 prisons in the 50s, to evolve it into a whole 34, 35 prisons out of state counties, and then they had the gymnasiums and the day rooms packed. That's how crazy this incarceration system grew. And so in California, we have more prisons and people incarcerated than the whole country put together. Right? I mean, no, the whole country put together practically, right? It's state prisons, right? Some states only have like 4 prisons, 2 prisons, but we have 35 prisons plus, out of state prisons. So we stopped the out of state prisons. Those are being shut down. The contracts are being canceled, and so you know, we brought the population down for the first time in 30 years. And you know, we're shutting down the first prison. You know, with the support of the Governor Newsom. I mean, you know, there's just changes on all different levels that need to be done. But in order to be effective, you know, we need funding. And for me, my biggest challenge was knowing how to ask for the money. Right? It's like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
ask for money to continue doing the work that I told God, my creator, that I was going to do, that I'm indebted for the rest of my life to do. My freedom, I feel, is driven by my work to my creator, to always honor the memory of the people that I have caused harm to, you know, because I know that I'm a perfectly imperfect human being, and we all are. And I bring that comfort to communities where they don't gotta be dishonest, and it could come and call me in the middle of the night, and I'm out there trying to figure out, hey man, you need a train and you're stranded, God knows where, and like, let me figure it out, man. I don't know how to run these apps, but we're gonna get it done. It might take 3 hours, but we're gonna get you safe, right? Like things like that, that sometimes happen, and I just been moving by spirit, planting the seeds, trusting that the universe and the creator eventually they're gonna help me and supporting me with publishing the book, and expanding the communityhealers.org to allow it to be operating and functioning on its own without me, where these people are doing all these different layers of the work that I've been doing within my organization, where I eventually evolve from it, and let that be another engine that runs itself like my former organization SART does. And like right now, I'm really, really honored to be working with all of us, Hernan, and all the chapters that they have, and all the amazing work that they take on the front lines. They're solid grassroots movement, and I've been very, very honored to have a great executive director and a great, amazing team where we're collectively being able to do this work, not just as an organization, but also with the statewide collaborative organizational partners that are part of this fight.
You there?
Yeah.
Yeah, zoned out.
Oh, I lost you. Okay, yeah.
Oh, what's up? There goes my ace too. What's up, Christina? Man, share some thoughts, man. Why don't we ask Christina some questions, man? I need some help. I'm out of air over here.
No.
You gotta mute that.
Okay, let me see.
Okay, here we are. Sorry, I don't want to get on the camera.
That's okay. So what got you into this
cooking.
work? What got you into this work?
Wait. Let me turn this up, because I can still hear myself. Like, you gotta mute it.
Okay, what got you into this work?
Where's my how do you turn this up? Oh, I see. Duh.
Text.
I'm on the my laptop, so I'm still learning it. Now, what'd you ask?
What
Henry?
got you into this? Doing this work.
The work that Henry's doing?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you don't want to ask that. Honestly, it goes back 6 years ago when my friends were in prison, and a few of them, and one in particular that I grew up with, he's battling cancer. He has a brain tumor that is cancerous, a cancerous brain tumor, stage 4 cancer. And what that means is that the cancer is within the tumor. So, if the tumor keeps growing and expanding, it could, burst open or something, and then he'll get cancer. That's what I assume. I'm not really sure about that. But anyways, he wasn't getting the medical attention he needed. But not only him, it was so many people that I knew that were, their rights were violated. And you think that you don't have rights because you're locked away in prison, and, but you have those rights. You're supposed to be treated with dignity. And, I just wanted to make a change. I wanted to learn how to, protect people and their rights that are incarcerated, those that are coming home, do some reentry work, help them get home, be there for them. A lot of people are in there and they don't have family. Their family could have died off, being in there, spending life sentences, just so many different things. And to have someone, send a news article, newspapers, or, just anything showing that you're there, or if they have questions, you can answer them. So that kind of motivated me. And then when I lost my son 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years, January 1st. He was 18 going on 19. But when I lost him, as Henry said earlier about, accidental, shooting, he accidentally shot himself. I took all my pain and everything, all my hurt. And then also my daughter's dealing with their trauma. His sisters, they didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't know how to be there for them while grieving. So I decided to put all my everything into the community, and I would find my own resources, find a way to help them. And that's what I did. So once I got in there, I was already doing, advocating for those incarcerated, but now I'm also doing what my son started with his Run Rich Entertainment, to make our youth young entrepreneurs, and change the cycle of this mass incarceration, because these kids have no mentors. As Henry was saying earlier, it's all messed up. People are locked up. Everybody that they looked up to, we all grew up that way. A lot of us have, being locked up because the war on drugs and, all the things that's been happening just to lock people up. And if you take that away from families, you break families up. Do you think your kids are going to listen to anybody? The people that they're supposed to listen to, they're not going to take any direction from just anyone. You're not my mom, you're not my dad. So that's the attitude that you have. And these kids, they look towards other kids in the community, people that are a little bit older, but these little bit older people are still gang members, or they're out there gang banging, selling drugs, robbing people, and you see that it's so common that all these kids, that's all they focus on. That's all they want to do. Most, a lot of kids in Sacramento. And it's really sad because now we're seeing such a high rate of our kids dying, getting killed or killing, getting locked up. Again, the cycle is happening, and my son wanted to change that cycle. He started getting kids together and said, well, if you like music, let me put you into music. If you like writing, if you like producing, do all of that. And my part was, if you want to learn the business, even if you want to be an artist, learn the business so nobody gets over on you. You will have that insight to where you can be powerful for yourself, advocate for yourself, and for like the women, some of them wanted to be models, or they wanted, so we have a photo shoot type of thing. If you want to be a director, if you want to, film music videos, or whatever it is that you do that you have a talent in, or you want to learn, that's what Run Rich Entertainment was about. We wanted to be able to build these kids up in the community. And that's something that I'm still working on, that I'm still doing, along with, the work that Henry does. Being a team in that aspect, we'll be able to, go after the community in a way that we have all the resources, the connections, some way. Whatever we don't have, we have a connection to. We will find, something, while dealing with your trauma. You want to focus in on the arts. My 15-year-old is an artist. She's a very talented artist. She can draw so beautifully and so good. And, she's going to be my little teacher of other kids, so it's just like a thing. And my son being an actor, I was managing and acting. So it's so many roles and so many things that is going to inspire and motivate, and something that the kids love. So, just having that all around is something that I love doing. And that's, so I got into work because of losing my son and wanting to help these kids that are dying and getting shot. And, with my daughter getting shot October 2nd, so that's, I got to change it. I got to change the way this is. I've got to do something. I got to step up and do whatever it takes. So.
Well, I like the idea of the Run Rich thing, because it does get kids, out of that mindset of thinking that they have to be involved with the gangs and stuff. It's a good thing for them, like you say, to get into art, get into music, get into whatever interests them, because I think that's what a lot of kids are missing. They get involved in that other lifestyle, and that's all they know.
Right. And if if they want to bang on somebody, let's bang on who's the best artist, who drew the best. My music goes harder than yours. That's the banging that we're going to talk about. That's the banging that we're going to do. They want to bang and they want to be a part of something, a gang or the gang culture. Oh, we have it, but we have it in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. And you've been working with Henry for how long?
2 years now. Already. Time goes by fast.
It does go by fast. You guys have done.
She even got arrested with me. Remember we got arrested over there with the Stefan Clark protest? Oh my God, freaking Christina! She's had my back, man. Like, man, I'm gonna tell you straight out. Like, a lot of the work, if I don't have cross coverage, if I don't have somebody solid and strong that's got my back, it wouldn't be possible. I probably would be only be able to do like half of the stuff we've been able to do, right? So you know, she's helped me build more capacities than anticipated, but we're grinding it out. We're out here pushing and doing the best we can to make a difference in our.
You guys
in
have
our
done a
people.
great job so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do in the future, because you got a good thing going, and then you might as well keep trying to build and build and build on it. For people that want to attend your trauma classes, how do they do that?
They can. You want to give them the information, Christina?
Yeah, well, one,
Okay. Anyway, what's the website they can get you at, Henry?
sorry.
What happened?
Oh, right here.
Oh,
Okay, there I go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got the
Okay.
button. Push the
Okay.
button.
I was talking and you're like, okay.
I was like,
Like, damn, what did I say? No. I was saying that we are building community healers, and that what consists of that is that it's a whole bunch of things. So whatever your interests are, if you want to be an advocate, if you want to be an activist, if you want to learn about going to the Capitol, changing policy, stopping the police violence, and just protesting, everything that you could think of, in that on that side. And then the youth aspect, you don't even have to be a youth, you don't have to be young to be a part of the Run Rich Entertainment as well. But we plan on doing things as far as the music goes. We are going to get equipment. People can record. I mean, I already have people that we go to, that is willing to offer these services. But also our building the community healers, we have different places where we have our meetings, and we'll have meetings and we'll have trainings. We want you to first go through the trauma aspect of it, to not only heal others of trauma, but to recognize your own traumas. Because a lot of people don't know that they have trauma until, it's talked about. It's such a beautiful thing. I've been in those spaces with Henry, having those healing circles, and it's just crazy because I didn't know it was like that. And for my kids to even be active in that and they don't like anything. They don't like anything adults do. So, it's a really good thing. But you can go to Facebook, and we have, we got to shorten it up. We're going to do a community healers Facebook, but it's called Trauma Through a Traumatized Perspective right now on Facebook. TTTP, 3 T's and a P trainings. So that will have updates. We have Instagram, same thing, Trauma Through a Traumatized Perspective. We have, what do we have? Our website, Henry Community Healer, .org? henrycommunityhealer.org. Healer? Yeah, healer. Yeah. Community healer, henrycommunityhealer.org. So that will have the updates for when we start doing it. And if we have people coming out, reaching out and say, hey, I need to, when are you gonna have the workshops? And we keep getting bugged, we'll have it very soon. We do it already kind of in other spaces. So if we're at other meetings, like if we have a All of Us or None meeting, because we have, Henry works for All of Us or None. I am a volunteer of All of Us or None, a member. And we have it in Sacramento on Florin Road. We have different events that we've already had, like Prop 17, voters' rights for those that are on probation or parole, felony parole. So gave them the rights back. So yes, we have that. Our own will be coming up. We will be setting that up. But as of right now, we do have our All of Us or None meetings. Different meetings. We'll still be able to have those type of meetings for people to come to.
Cool. All right, guys. I want to thank you both actually for coming on. This was great. I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to help get the word out for you guys and stuff, because you guys are doing some really good work.
Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks, Charlotte. We appreciate
right.
Yes,
you.
and I love listening to the show, because hearing it earlier, I was like, wow, I got to tune in more often. This is pretty
There you
good.
go. Yeah, check out our YouTube page. We got everything's on there, so we got all kinds of stuff on
Definitely.
there. All right,
Really.
sounds good, guys. You have a
All right.
good night.
You too.
All right, bye
See you
bye.
later.
All righty, so that was a 2 hour and 7 minute show, and it was kind of fun, as things started going. And I've known Henry and Christina for a while, and I can vouch that the work they're doing is incredible out there, to help the youth and help people, coming out of prison and people that are incarcerated. So hopefully, things keep working out for them and then keep going. And just like our earlier guest, Radical Intuition, that was some pretty good stuff. So guys, you need to learn to meditate and mellow out a little bit and chill and learn to go with your gut, go with the force, right? So cool. Anyway, we'll be back next Wednesday at 6:30. And I should have a pretty cool guest with that. I've kind of been throwing the idea around of maybe reading from Dickens' A Christmas Carol every evening, maybe from, say, 6 to 7. And so we'll see. Maybe starting tomorrow, or maybe starting on Friday to do that, leading up to Christmas. Just get a little extra going. So we'll see. We'll see how my schedule goes. But in the meantime, it was great to be on with you guys, and I'm looking forward to our next guest next week. So have a good evening, and see y'all.